Stephen Ellis joins us, associate editor, Daily Faceoff. He's the prospects guy, too. Hey, Stephen. I'm appreciative that you joined us today because most days you're at Leafs morning skates, aren't you? Leafs home to the Blues tonight?
Yeah, not there tonight. Taking this is my first day not being in a rink for quite a long time. So decided to actually, after just getting married, decided spending time with my wife's probably a better idea.
Smart kid, and a really nice kid, too, by the way. I appreciate the kind of guy you are. And congratulations on the nuptials. You got a real cutie there. You do. So good for you, Steve. You know that. So you won't be at the Blues and the Leafs tonight, but you'll be watching. What has you intrigued about this game tonight?
Well, we kind of have a pretty unique situation where Jordan Binnington, being from Toronto, is playing for St. Louis, and Joseph Woll, being from St. Louis, is playing for Toronto. It's pretty rare that you have goalies that were born in the opposing team's city playing against each other. But I think, the one for sure will be, lots of eyes leading up to the Four Nations face-off. Is Jordan Binnington going to be one of Canada's goalies? Early on, it looked like Samuel Montembeault was looking pretty strong there, and he's kind of quieted out a bit. Binnington's got a very good opportunity to be that starting goalie, and he was Canada's goalie at the World Championship. And then for Toronto, it's how does Joseph Woll get into this and look as good as he needs to, because he hasn't played yet this year. Anthony Stolarz has looked great. This would be a really good opportunity for there to be a goaltending controversy where their goalies are both too good. But I think that I'm not sure how that's going to happen. But for me, it's going to be looking at the two goalies.
As long as I live, I'll remember you coming on my show at Rogers Place in Edmonton at the World Juniors and you being locked out. Remember that day? The corridors, the gates were all closed. You made it. You were just sweating like crazy. You were worried that day, I could tell.
I ran like hell because I was going to be late, but speed, trying to figure out how to get up there was impossible. So, when I went to the link earlier this year in Edmonton, it was no problem. Yeah, no problem. Made it. It's all good.
I appreciate the effort you put in, and in the end, you were on time. But the reason I bring up the World Juniors is you are the prospects guy at Daily Faceoff, and you know your stuff. Well, I'm wondering who you think will win the Calder Trophy this year as NHL Rookie of the Year. Mishkov and Stankoven lead the NHL with 7 points among rookies. Lane Hudson of Montreal is getting a lot of pub, 4 points there. Who's going to win the Calder, Stephen?
I always try to stick with my preseason predictions because you make them for a reason. But I picked Logan Stankoven to win it all. I think partly because he had that NHL experience last year. He looked really good in that and probably could have played even more games, but they were trying to manage that mark of making sure he was Calder eligible. And the fact that he's playing such a key role on a competitive team is a big deal. You'll look out there and Michkov's playing with a lot of nothing on the Flyers and having to do a lot of heavy lifting for someone who was playing on one of the worst KHL teams last year. And don't get me wrong, I think Michkov's one of the best young players in the world. He's going to be a superstar. But I think Logan Stankoven was just more ready to play a big role right away. And we're seeing what he's able to do right now as the top rookie scorer. So I love it. I think he's super skilled. And I think, the Dallas Stars have a pretty bright future with him and Maverick Bourque.
Do you still think Mishkov's a better player than Bedard? And when I say that, now, and also who do you think at the end of their career will have had a better career? Because that one's impossible to predict. But right now, who's the better player?
Bedard right now is still the best. We'll see what happens with Michkov. But I think, Bedard's good. I'm just ready for him to get the proper line mates he needs. With all due respect to Philip Kurashev and, Nick Foligno, those aren't exactly pieces that get you too excited, but the Blackhawks have some good young pieces coming up. I think people are going to be shocked how good Oliver Moore is. Frankie Nazar is going to be pretty solid. They've drafted well the last couple of years, which when you draft early, it helps. But he's going to get a lot of support very quickly, and I'm excited for that to happen. And also Taylor Hall, watching him be able to play with Bedard again, I think is pretty exciting.
We're referencing you, I think, on NHL radio, either this morning or yesterday morning. They were referring to you as Ellis. Do you just go by Ellis with Scott Laughlin on those guys? Is that on a last name basis with those guys?
Whatever people want to call me, they can call me.
Okay. Well, I'll just stick with Steven. And I want you, I just saw Darren Dreger in the break pimping his podcast. And one of the topics are the Washington Capitals for real? And they won again last night. They spanked Philly. Do you believe they are? And how much for real are they?
The one thing I really like about the Capitals is their goaltending and the fact that they got two goalies that they could rely on any night. Like, we know how good Charlie Lindgren was last year, and I think, Darcy Kemper was not going to be the answer. So the Dubois move was definitely interesting. But going out there and bringing in Logan Thompson, I think is, again, very important because he's been excellent. And I think Logan Thompson is one of the more underrated goalies in the NHL, because before, in that rookie season, he had some outstanding numbers, got hurt, season's over. Last year, he took over for Adin Hill, but just didn't look as good as he could have possibly. And I don't think Vegas's defense was just there every single night for as good as we know that blue line could be. Now in Washington, both goalies are trying to prove themselves with the long-term starter. They're both looking for new deals. That's a lot of motivation for those two guys, and they're looking good. And then also, I know Pierre-Luc Dubois, again, a hot topic the last couple of years. He's playing well right now. And I think the key for him is I think he's been able to commit defensively better than we've seen from him probably at any point in his career. So he's looking more well-rounded. He's putting up points. Having him produce is a really key thing there. So are they for real? We'll see. I still think they're at best a wild card team, but can't argue if their start right now being third in the Metro.
Yeah, and I want to wind it up with this. You referenced the Wall versus Bennington goaltender matchup tonight. What do we know about the Four Nations Cup starting goalies? I know there have been some players announced per team, but we don't necessarily know who's starting for the four, do we?
No, with Finland, you probably could guess it's probably going to be UC Saros. For the States, it's going to be wide open. I think it's whatever goalie's just at the best rate at the right point. Connor Hellebuck's my choice. Sweden, Jacob Markstrom, I think he's going to put up a good fight there. Philip Gustafsson's looking good. The big question marks in net for Canada. They do have some good options. They do have some goalies that statistically are in the top 10. It's just, are any of them, they're not as good as Connor Hellebuck. They're not as good as UC Saros. So we're going to have to see there. But I think Samuel Montembeault is a guy you got to keep looking at because he's been the most consistent Canadian goalie the last 3 years.
Love it, man. Fun to watch for sure. Enjoy your day at home. Congrats again, Steven. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the games tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Steven Ellis, associate editor, prospects analyst, and recently married from the Daily Faceoff.